PlayStation Portal release, and oh boy, it's interesting. Is this device worth the price and better than some of the other options? And make sure you stick around because I'll be showing you a device with a specific feature that you might want instead of this. But let's look over this. And also, I have a special announcement, so stick around. Now, I love handheld gaming. Being able to play a game anywhere is so unique. In the car, on a plane, or just at home sitting on the couch, or laying in bed. These are only a few of the reasons handheld gaming is great. But how useful is it to remove the aspect of being able to play your games from anywhere? Or a lot of the handheld gimmicks that you come to see with devices like the Nintendo Switch. Well, let me introduce to you the new PlayStation Portal, Sony's answer to modern handheld gaming. Once again, Sony has broken into the handheld market, but I don't think this is what the handheld community wanted. First, what is this? The PlayStation Portal is a streaming-only device, allowing you to play your PlayStation 5 games from anywhere with a solid internet connection. That's right, your PlayStation 5 games. This device can't be played without a PlayStation 5. It also can't play games natively. Its only purpose is to stream PlayStation 5 games from your console to this device. In fact, it can't even stream games using the PlayStation Plus streaming subscription, which makes streaming any game on PS5 simply seem useless to me. But maybe I'm just out of touch. Is this what gamers want now? Streaming a game that you can already play natively on your console? I don't know. Anyways, the PlayStation Portal has a very unique design, with Sony straight up chopping a DualSense in half and essentially adding an iPad mini in the middle, which is touchscreen, but there's no PlayStation games that are touchscreen. The only use of this touchscreen is to increase or decrease the brightness. You just flick down from the top right corner and you can adjust some settings from there. This screen is a 8-inch LCD display that streams up to 1080p at 60 frames per second, which is a higher resolution than most other current handheld devices like the Switch or the Steam Deck. The Portal includes all the features the regular DualSense does, like the HD rumble and my favorite, adaptive triggers. There's also the obligatory volume buttons, built-in speakers, aux input, and basic buttons. To the untrained eye, this looks like it could be PlayStation's next big handheld gaming device. But then of course you see the remote player text, and all your hope gets washed away. Let's consider the price of this device. At the time of launch, this baby will set you back 200 bones, which is a little more than half the price of buying a Nintendo Switch. So I guess you could say it's not a terrible value, but when you think about the use cases for the Portal, it makes less and less sense. PlayStation markets this as a convenient getaway if you can't use the TV. Literally, they say on the website, some games are a big commitment, and you might not be able to justify hogging the living room TV all night. That's all they could come up with. They don't even know what the point of this is. So yeah, you can free up your TV, but you're still tying up your PS5. Does it work though? Yeah, it works. But you definitely need a good network connection. They recommend 15 megs or above for optimal use, but I found that having 40 and up is the most optimal. Regardless of the connection speed, you can tell this is just a streamed video, especially if you're playing something like a competitive shooter like Fortnite. There's simply too much latency for a game like this. It's playable, but it's very noticeable. I think I'd actually prefer using the Switch and having worse graphics but less latency even at 30 frames per second in Fortnite specifically. By the way, if you want to learn about the history of Fortnite on Nintendo Switch, you can check out one of my other videos. It gets really weird. Anyways, even when you're not playing a competitive game, the latency is still really noticeable. Streaming any game, you'll have to deal with it. Even story-driven games that don't need incredibly fast inputs, that really only leaves a handful of games playable. You can play games like Spider-Man and Ratchet & Clank, but even with Spider-Man, for example, there are specific combat combos that require speedy inputs, and having even a bit of latency can throw you right off. Playing something like Spider-Man works, and I actually wouldn't mind playing through a majority of the game on this device, but once again, you can still tell that this game is being streamed, because it looks oddly compressed sometimes, even with a good connection. So the experience you get with this device completely relies on what game you decide to play and how robust your connection is. Though I often found even with a good connection speed, the stream tends to be pretty choppy. I found the game would run into a hitch and then be super compressed for a bit as it caught up. Also, I have no idea how to use the touchpad. Like, I've used it a couple times, but I don't even know how. It's weird and not clear. Of course, there's also online multiplayer games, like the aforementioned Fortnite, where you need precision timing and reflexes, which now have the added latency from streaming the game to the Portal, on top of your connection to the game server. Now, a game like Rocket League gives you a little more leeway, as while you do need quick reflexes, you don't need quite as precise aim as with a shooter. Overall, this was pretty fun, but very often, like with most games I played on the Portal, something would happen and would always remind me that this was just a stream. And that's the main issue for me. The only thing you can do on this device is stream, which is what they tell you, I know, but still. I would have loved to see a few things added, like a tethered connection. Give me a long cable so I can connect it directly to the PlayStation and have no latency. So even if I want to sit on the couch across from the PlayStation and someone wanted to use the TV like you say they want to do, then I can still just tether it to the PlayStation and use it as a display and a remote. And then there would be no latency. Maybe they'll add it in future update, but still, I just... I don't know. Or even beef this up with a little computing power so I can run games with simple graphics like pixel art indie games. And developers could do what they do with the Steam Deck, where they verify specific games for play on the Portal. PlayStation could ultimately decide which games could run on this little chip inside. We've seen smaller devices get extremely powerful processors that run insane games with exceptional graphics. Obviously, this would have made the Portal more expensive, but I think having this be over $500, giving it its own processor to play some of its own games, and still letting it stream PS5 would have made for a pretty great PlayStation handheld. And they did that with the Vita too. You could stream all your PS4 games right onto the Vita. It wasn't the best, but you could, and that's what they were going for. I still just don't understand the streaming only market, especially in this day and age. Access to high-speed internet is a lot easier to get now, but you're still at the mercy of your connection at any given time. If a storm rolls around and knocks out your power, you can't play squat on this thing, unless you somehow find a way to power both your PS5 and your network. Maybe that wasn't the best example, but still, if the internet goes out, you can't play this at all. Gaming just isn't designed around cloud gaming. There's still latency in most cases, and the connection must be strong to even enjoy the games. The worst thing is when you're engaged in an intense scene in your game, and the Portal you paid $200 for suddenly drops connection and completely pulls you out of the immersion and ruins a portion of the game you've been dying to play. My internet connection is strong, and I'd still get dips and glitches every once in a while. Suspiciously, it really hit when the microwave was on. What can I say? Microwaves are against me. But how does the Portal compare to the other handhelds currently on the market? Well, I think that there's 3 devices that it's up against: the Nintendo Switch, the Backbone, and of course, the Steam Deck. And the Nintendo Switch. As much as I wish I could directly compare these two, you just can't. There's no built-in processor to run these games natively on the Portal. Though the Switch can stream some games itself with the cloud version of games, even with a decent connection, I never love these versions of the game. They suffer from the same latency issue the Portal faces, and on an even lower resolution screen. Since I have other more powerful consoles that can run these games, there's just no point of me trying to run a cloud version on the Switch. I'd rather just play them natively on other hardware. But let's take a look at its closest competitor, the Backbone. This is the PlayStation model of the Backbone 1. And this device is pretty much just a controller, as you'll need to use your phone as the display. With your phone connected to the PlayStation Remote Play app, you can stream your PS4 and PS5 games. So that's already an added extra bonus for this. It can stream your PS4 and PS5 games, whereas the Portal can only stream your PS5 games. The Backbone automatically pairs the controllers as soon as you open the app, which is nice. My first impression was surprised. I can't believe how well this ran. And yes, there was a little bit of latency still. I found it to be just a tad better than the Portal, at least on the same connection. Sometimes I feel like the Backbone has more latency, and sometimes I feel like it has less latency than the Portal. Regardless, you'll experience latency with whatever device you choose. Unlike the Portal, my phone isn't a dedicated streaming device, and with the Backbone, the display will only ever be as good as the phone you're using. I've been using my iPhone, which has a better display than the Portal because it's an OLED display, whereas the Portal has a LCD display, so the colors on the Portal aren't as complex, contrasty, or vibrant. I really like how small the Backbone control is and how easy it is to take with me on the go. It's much more convenient than the Portal. The Portal is massive next to it. Another solid thing about the Backbone is I don't need to rely on having access to Wi-Fi wherever I plan to play, as my phone has access to mobile data. To play the Portal on the go, you need to connect to a mobile hotspot every time you wanted to play somewhere without a Wi-Fi connection. So even though the Backbone isn't a dedicated handheld device, it's a lot more convenient to play handheld, even though they essentially do the same thing. The one big thing that you're missing with the Backbone is the haptic feedback and adaptive triggers from the DualSense, which is a massive selling point for the Portal, and it's definitely why I like it a tad more than the Backbone. The Portal just feels more comfortable for longer gaming sessions, and I just appreciate the bigger screen and the controller features. Now, one thing you probably didn't expect me to compare this to is the Steam Deck. You might not realize, but the Steam Deck can do everything the Portal can do and more. You can stream your games from your PS5 like with the Portal, plus you can stream your PS4 as well. And on top of that, you can even stream the cloud versions of games with PlayStation Plus. That's right, bizarrely enough, even the Portal can't do that. What was Sony thinking? Sony has an app for PC that lets you do all of this, and with a little bit of tinkering or by installing Windows on your deck, you have access to all that as well. And on top of that, you don't even need to stream these games. You can buy all of the PlayStation heavy hitters like God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, The Last of Us, Ratchet & Clank, all on Steam, and they're all verified on Steam Deck. So you don't even need to worry about latency, you can just load them all natively on the deck. And with the new OLED model of the Steam Deck coming out, you'll have access to an even better screen, albeit a little bit of a lower resolution, but I think that's fine because then you won't have this stupid video compression, and of course, the latency. Now looking at this from my Nintendo Switch fanboy point of view, it's okay. Technically it's cheaper than a Switch, but you need to spend more money to even use it since you need to have a physical PS5 as well. I just really have no idea who the PlayStation Portal was designed for. Maybe for those who don't have a TV? I've been using it if someone else is already watching something on the TV, and sometimes I'll use it in bed. Now my wife doesn't really love how loud it can be while I aggressively click the buttons and the seemingly grinding adaptive triggers, because they do make a grinding noise whenever the adaptive triggers are enabled. disabled. So when it's completely quiet in the room, it just sounds a little annoying, especially for people around you. But that's just how they are. And the backbone has the same loud issue. I mainly ended up using it when I was away from my PlayStation in another building. Like if I was away somewhere or I had to leave my home for some reason. It did the trick, but not reliably. There was no knowing when this would work decently or when it would just randomly fail. With everything bad I've said, we need to remember this is just a remote display for your PS5. Don't get your expectations too high. Another thing I'm actually surprised I haven't seen many people touch on is the fact you obviously can't swap physical games when you're using it away from your PS5. This is a pretty big issue for game collectors like myself. When I was trying this at my parents' house and I wanted to play Street Fighter 6 or Crash Team Rumble, I couldn't because I owned them physically at home. I was limited by whatever disc I left in my PlayStation and games I own digitally. So if you plan on using this out of the house and you have a physical game collection, you might get bored pretty fast. There are just so many things Sony missed the mark on with this device. There's things you can't do, like streaming YouTube videos or movies from streaming services. Another thing you can't do is use Bluetooth headphones like AirPods. If you want to connect with headphones wirelessly, you must use PlayStations, which aren't even released yet. You can connect them using the button on the top. They made a whole button for it. I didn't even know what this was until I looked it up. Thankfully, you can use a wired headset, but how many people want to carry those around just for this device? Seriously, I can even connect my AirPods to my Switch. Originally, you couldn't do this with the Switch either, so maybe Sony will release a patch that'll let you connect other Bluetooth headphones to the PlayStation. But I'm not holding my breath. So really it comes down to this. If you really want a dedicated device to stream games from your PS5, then get this. Personally, I don't find streaming games all that great yet, so it's really not for me. Do I think it's worth $200 I paid for it? For me, no. It's cool and it's doing exactly what it says, but I don't think I'd ever want to sacrifice my gameplay experience just because I can't use my TV one night. I understand the use cases, but personally, I can't warrant this purchase, especially since I have a Nintendo Switch and Steam Deck. I'm not even including the fact you have to pay for the PS5 in the first place. Plus, a lot of the games I wanted to play on the Portal, I can already play on my Switch, which is handheld, and I don't need a Wi-Fi connection. I can just play them anywhere I want. And thanks for sticking around, but now it's time for the special announcement! We have started a new YouTube membership and Patreon. This is the best way to support my content so I can keep cranking out these videos. Each tier has unique rewards, so please, if you get a chance and you're interested, I would really appreciate it if you check it out. Your support would mean the world to me! Also, you can now join my free Discord. All of the links are in the description. Thank you. So yeah, the PlayStation Portal. Do you have the same issues I'm having with it? And would you or do you want to buy one? Please consider liking and subscribing. I'll see you in the next one. See you later.